Welcome to Unlocking Childhood, coffee and conversations with early childhood experts and real-life parents to explore the importance of quality early childhood care from birth to 5 years of age.
We will cover topics such as sleep, nutrition, emotional and behavioral regulation, the importance of play, and the well-being of parents.
We are your hosts, Kelsey Moeller, Human Development and Family Science Extension Specialist.
And I'm Germán Posada, professor at the Department of Human Development and Family Science at Purdue University.
Thank you for joining us for our first episode of Unlocking Childhood. Today we will be talking about sleep and the importance it has on children's cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development.
Our expert guest today is A.J. Schwichtenberg, Associate Professor at the Department of Human Development and Family Science. Our parent guests are Aubrey Strasser and Kirsten Koontz.
Thank you all for joining us. We can get started with you, AJ, if you want to just kind of introduce the topic a little bit more and let us know why sleep is so important for all of those different things that we'll talk about.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I have the Sleep and Developmental Studies lab here at Purdue, and we spend all of our days and many of our nights thinking about sleep and how it's developmentally consequential for kids. I talk to a lot of moms and a lot of parents about sleep, and they almost always start the conversation with, well, I know I'm not supposed to, but this is what we do, right? And it's because there are so many messages out there and conflicting messages, and parents just want to get a good night's sleep themselves. They want to support their children's sleep. When talking about early childhood, emotion regulation becomes a key component, and any parent will tell you if they didn't nap or if they didn't get a good night's sleep, where you see it the next day is in their emotion regulation and problem solving. And let's be real, as adults, if we don't sleep the next day and the butter doesn't spread properly on the toast, it's a teary-eyed moment, right?
Been there.
Yeah. So sleep can impact a lot of things, but that's where we often see it first. Are there other questions about sleep that I can answer for you?
Yeah, well, we can pass it over to our parent guest. Either one of you can start. I know you both had some questions, so I'll let you take the floor on whoever wants to start with their questions.
So I am Aubrey, mother of 3 boys, and all 3 of them are different sleepers. And it's funny because we, did everything the same with all of them, but they just have their own sleep patterns. One needs substantially more sleep than the other 2 and just can't seem to get it. So he is diagnosed ADHD. So we have some medication that we think is impacting his sleep routine. So we're trying to continue to navigate that issue. He was our first child, and we sleep trained him. So my question is, what age is good to start sleep training if you choose to do so?
If you choose to do so. I love that you phrased that, and an if you choose to do so, because sleep training, there has been a movement, I would say, across the last 5 years where attachment parenting approaches are like, you would never want to leave your child crying in a dark place. And I often talk to parents about, we train our kids where it's appropriate to cry and not all the time. And we do it from the day they come home from the hospital. Kids learn very, very quickly that in a car seat, their cries don't have much power, right? It's one of those, you have to be buckled up. This is a safety issue. And no one ever questions if there are any negative developmental consequences to having your kid in a car seat. And I liken sleep training to that you are creating a safe space for your child to have that. It is not for every family. I know you asked the question of age, and I think there's a lot wrapped into that, in that it depends on your child. But once you're at least 4 months of age, right? They have circadian entrainment. They're getting more sleep at night than they are during the day. Some families find that 6 months feels about right to them. Other families find that 9 months feels about right to them. What happens is your child's ability to be able to signal gets longer as they get older. And so you might have a little bit of a longer signaling period that first night or two if you're dealing with a 9-month-old or a 12-month-old or a 15-month-old. But research very consistently shows that second, third night, there is a really strong dissipation. And it's about like helping your kids kind of learn the rules of the context and the environment in a positive, contingent, responsive way.
AJ, this may sound a little bit silly, but could you very briefly elaborate on what circadian rhythm is?
Great. That's a great question. So there are two driving forces to sleep. One is your homeostatic drive. So the longer you're awake, the greater your need for sleep. And your circadian drive, which is linked with day-night light cycles outside. When infants are born, they only have a homeostatic drive. And this is why they sleep just as much at night as they do during the day. And then over the course of the first 12 weeks, we call that entrainment. And they're getting exposed to light during the day and not at night. And then their circadian system will mature such that they will then start to cycle based more on the systems that we're used to, that you sleep at night and less during the day. Thank you, Herman. That was a great question.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question.
Please.
So we chose to sleep train starting at 9 months. He was exclusively breastfed and just wanted to eat. So he was waking every 2 hours just to eat. He didn't need the food. He was getting plenty of calories during the day.
Yeah.
So I was tired. So we actually bought a program that I talked with a professional. It was very tailored to him and our family and what we were comfortable with Cry It Out. And I know some people are not comfortable with Cry It Out. We were at a point in our life that we had to be a little bit.
Yeah.
So does Cry It Out have negative effects on the brain and emotional development of the child?
No.
That's great.
I want to answer that as fast as possible.
That's good to know.
Fast
news.
as possible. Yeah.
So
No,
the program that we used, the Cry It Out periods would get longer. So he'd cry for 5 minutes, and if he didn't settle, I would go and I would not say anything. I would pick him up, comfort him, calm him down, lay him back down in his bed, and then we'd set a timer for 10 minutes. And he'd cry for 10 minutes. And then if he didn't calm down, I would pick him up, not say anything, but comfort him, calm him down, lay him back down. And so it progressed through weeks where eventually, he just stopped crying. He would just go to bed, and it was wonderful.
Right.
What was the longest time
25
period?
minutes.
25 minutes.
And
Oh,
how old was he
gosh.
at that point?
He was 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
It hurts. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember sitting outside of his room just crying because you don't want your kid to be uncomfortable, but I knew he wasn't wet. I knew he wasn't
safe.
cold.
Yeah.
I knew he had a nice bed. I knew he was full. So he just wanted held. So
Yeah.
it's good to know that there are no long-term effects on
No,
letting
and-
him cry it out.
Yeah, and oftentimes the concern is that it will somehow impact your relationship with them. I want to highlight that from a historic standpoint, when an infant is in a dark place by themselves, it is developmentally appropriate for them to cry out. If you vision back to when we were living with lions, if you were an infant and that happened, it could be very dangerous. We're not in that situation anymore, and it's okay. But it's understandable and absolutely appropriate for them to cry. Babies cry to signal all of the time. But like you said, he was in a safe space. You were a positive, contingent, responsive parent in other times of the day. Most of your relationship was he bid and you came. In this scenario, he was like, okay, crying out here doesn't bring mom, and I'm tired and I'm going to go to sleep, right? Yeah. Thanks for sharing your journey. I feel like it is, it's parents struggle with this almost universally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirsten, how is the sleep in your house? You're a mother of 2 kids, different ages. So how does children's sleep go?
I've got a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Okay.
And I feel like we've got it down pat now. And I think I was just lucky. I don't know. I didn't do any sleep training. I just kind of went on her cues. She just eventually started sleeping through the night. So just really lucky in that aspect. I did want to ask about contact naps. Because like you said, we get so much differing opinions on social media, and maybe grandparents, but anyone that has their opinion on it, you're spoiling them if you like by holding them while they sleep instead of setting them down. I don't think that I am, but I was just curious.
So I think, like all good answers, it depends.
Yeah.
And if you are talking about a newborn infant and an extremely tired, sleep-deprived parent who is also falling asleep while the child is on them, that's a dangerous situation.
Right.
And so that is the time when people are like, I finally got him to sleep, But this idea of grandparents holding an infant in their arms while they're kind of making tea, while the parents are resting, it's totally appropriate. And I think you have to know your child, right? For your daughter, it seemed like there were, not that many hiccups in the road, and sometimes they were held. And you don't want to set a child up so that they have to have that situation, right? That I only nap when I'm in that situation.
Yeah.
But contact is a lovely regulatory thing for everybody involved. So yeah, I encourage it in safe ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Agreed.
Well, you've all shared a little bit about this, but going a little bit deeper into what does your sleep routines look like in your home, and for AJ, you can chime in what might be a good sleep routine, or what might that look like for parents?
Yeah, so the research shows that having a consistent routine, both consistent in activities and in timing, are what are going to help support regulated sleep. And bedtime routines that are short, calming, generally made up of 3 or 4 activities. So maybe it is changing into pajamas when you do the diaper change. Maybe it's singing or praying or massaging. And this idea of all of the activities are very calming in nature. There's not tickling or,
Yes.
There's some very boisterous sorts of things. And there's a paradoxical effect that happens in children when they're sleep deprived, and all parents can attest this. When they get tired, they will ramp up, right? Yes, yes. And so it's you've got to catch them before the ramp up. And so this idea of all of your bedtime things, and once you have a consistent routine, it will actually cue them oh, okay, this is where the massage is coming, and I just melt into it. So that's what the research shows. Yeah. Consistency.
And I guess, but correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, I mean, the routine, you need to be consistent as much as possible, but kids change from day to day, and occasionally you break the routine down, and it's perfectly okay. It just as long as there is a routine that they could more or less predict what's coming next is what's important in this case, without being too rigid about it.
I appreciate that comment, Herman. You're absolutely right. And in actuality, you want to have that flexibility. If you have this very complex, very rigid bedtime routine, and then the event comes up where your child has to sleep someplace else, they're not set up for success.
Yes.
Yeah, but please do share.
So that's sometimes hard with 3 boys who are rowdy. I mean, it's wrestling all the time in our house with 3 boys. 2 of them share a bedroom. So our oldest 2 share a bedroom. And I think that impacts their sleep. We only live in a 3-bedroom home. And so it was kind of by necessity. So we're trying to figure out how to separate them, because the older 2, they are 8 and 6, very close in age, and definitely ramp each other up after we've done the nighttime routine, and we've tucked them in, and we've done the back scratches, and we've read the books. and they're calm, and we put them in their beds, and we close the door, and then we hear the giggling and the ball being thrown from bed to bed, and it's like, guys, you got to go to sleep. And I mean, they'll chatter for an hour sometimes, and then the morning is difficult. So I guess, do you have a recommendation for me what to do with them?
Yeah. So do you have in your household like systems set up where there's like a chore system or a reward system or like a structure already in place for something like that? And I ask because the idea of like this bedtime, like if it's all quiet when you go in, when you get up in the morning, there's like this reward, and you set them up for success, that like it's for 5 minutes of quiet the first night and then 10 minutes of quiet the next night.
So sleep train them.
Kind of, right? It's this idea of, and they're old enough to like understand kind of token reward systems. But the idea is you just want them to have quiescence, and then you know that nature will do the rest. And so all you have to do is kind of encourage that quieting of your body a bit, and then that will allow them to transition.
And I think the major issue is my 8-year-old has a lot of trouble falling asleep. And so he keeps up the 6-year-old. The 6-year-old would zonk.
If I'm not sleeping, you're not sleeping.
Yeah. And they get up at the same time.
Yes.
So, and your 6-year-old has more sleep need than your 8-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah. And so potentially having the 8-year-olds get up earlier so that they transition, their sleep needs align then at the end of the day.
Okay.
Right? Because that 6-year-old needs more time to sleep. Now, the trick may be to get your 8-year-old out of the room without waking the 6-year-old. But maybe they get up a little.
I think I could do that.
Yeah, they get, and
He's a
maybe
pretty heavy
that
sleeper.
get up early is a little special time, right? Where it's just him.
Yeah.
Right?
And he would thrive on that.
Yeah.
Aubrey, I notice your eyebrows going up when you sit, and they keep going, giggling for an hour or so, and I'm there just like just suffering, so to speak. But you talk about we. How do you distribute helping your kids to sleep at home? Do your spouse, your partner helps you, the main person in charge? How do you guys handle that?
So since I exclusively breastfed all of them while they were younger, I would always take the baby and he would take the older two. And so Callum is only 3, not breastfed anymore, but he still sometimes just wants me. And so I will still take Callum. He still likes to rock before bed. That's kind of still his routine.
Yes.
And then Nick will take the big boys, but then they want to see me after I'm done. And so if they're not asleep yet, sometimes I'll go in, and sometimes that's difficult because if we're reversed and Nick takes Callum, who's our youngest, and I take the older two, I can like get them settled. But if Nick goes in to tell them good night, sometimes they're like, Dad! And that kind of amps him up. And so this is actually just a couple days ago, I was like, maybe you just shouldn't come in. Like, tell them good night before I put them down. Because, like, I think they would have settled. Because we'll snuggle into one of their beds and read for 20 minutes. And that really chills them down. They get really into a story. We're reading a chapter book right now. So they'll get really into it and listen and calm and chill. And then they'll get tucked in and I think it's going well. And then Dad comes in to say goodnight, and it ruffles some feathers. But
What is the situation like for you, Kirsten, at home?
My husband does an activity with our oldest, like a game, maybe a little show if he got his homework done. And while I'm still breastfeeding our 1-year-old. And so I'll get her in her jammies, we'll rock, feed, and I'll put her down. And then we both go into my son's room, and he has brushed his teeth. My husband will do that while I'm taking care of the younger. And he'll have brushed teeth and put jammies on, and then we'll both go into his room. And we've got little lights around his bed, so it's like calm. And he has the hatch sound machine. And so that the red light comes on, red, stay in bed. And then we'll read 2 books. And so he gets both of us. And then we'll do a little feet rub, back rub time, and then we both exit, and he stays in his bed. So, yeah, it's like a well-oiled machine most nights.
Okay.
You mentioned the sound machine. AJ, what's your take on tools like that to help? Or is it helpful or not helpful sometimes?
It, like all good questions, it depends. So sleep should be in a quiet, dark, cool location. And in some environments, in order to achieve that quiet, that sound machine or white noise machine in the background can be very helpful. I generally encourage fan type sounds so that if you are someplace that you need to replicate it, it's pretty easy to replicate. If your child gets used to falling asleep to a particular Beethoven or a particular wave track, that's very hard to replicate in lots of different environments. But that white noise or brown noise sort of thing can work really well. The red light, or as long as the light in the room is not emitting blue, I think you're okay. So the blue tones generally suppress melatonin, and so that is going to suppress their natural circadian patterns. And so keeping in mind that if your child does want a nightlight in their room, it's one of those kind of red light district is a good sort of there's a reason that it's red. Okay. I know we associate red with stop, but it's also because red does not have any blue in it.
Well, good. I'm glad I didn't out myself.
Yeah. Did either of you have other questions that you wanted to ask first?
My last question was about the noise machine.
Okay.
So you answered that. Yeah. And we all have one in our room. We have 3 hatches in our home. So yeah, the kids, we have it set on a program. And when the older 2 were younger, they would hear it come on, and they'd be like, oh, that's and it would be red. It would turn on to just a soft red, and so they knew if it was red, unless you had to potty or like you were going to throw up, you stay in your bed. And so then at 6:30, it would turn green. And it was so funny because sometimes I'd wake up before them and I'd watch them on the monitor and I'd watch it turn green, and then they'd pop out of bed and come running out. And so I'm like, that's pretty cool.
I love that. Yeah. We have ours set to turn green at a certain time, and we don't really follow that.
Yeah, it's less so now.
Yeah, because I mean, it kind of changes. So it's. But it was not as strict with it.
It was helpful when they were younger to keep them in their bed at nighttime. So Callum, when we transitioned from his crib to his big boy bed, he had free will to get out. Mm-hmm. And so, no, your light's red. You have to stay in your bed. And honestly, it was a couple nights he got out, and he wants to be in his bed. He'll ask to go to bed. And if anybody else, if like an older brother is coming in while he's getting ready for bed, he'll say, please leave my room. Like, it's time for me to go to sleep. I need you to leave, please. So
That's funny.
I want to highlight something that you did there that I think is key in the application of this. The light is red, you have to stay in your bed, is that you said it in a very informational, non-upset, calm way. Oh, the light is red, you're in your bed. Little people are very rule-bound sorts of folks, and that calm kind of neutralness to your voice at bedtime is really key. I think we're tired sometimes at the end of the day. It's real easy to get frustrated and like, oh, just go to sleep. But if you think of like settling to bed as a co-regulatory sort of behavior, if you can stay calm, it will really help them to stay calm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are your thoughts on the people that think, oh, I'm going to keep them up all day. They don't need a nap because then they'll sleep so good at night. Because I was very strict with all of my children, and we called it nap trapped, and we would just say, nope, sorry, we can't come. That's his nap time. And people would sometimes be off put by it. And they're like, well, just skip his nap.
And then he'll sleep.
And then he'll
good
sleep all
tonight.
night. Just wear him out. He'll sleep so good. And for me, that was never the case. When we stayed on that nap schedule, then and with the sleep training plan, it came with a nap schedule. So there was a wake time, playtime, nap time, playtime, sleep time. So it was very regimented, and like you needed to do them in that order.
Up until what time? That is, what ages are you talking about?
Right. Well, it depended. So, and I don't know the times. That was 7 years ago.
Yeah. But how old were your kids? Is what I'm trying to say.
He was 9 months.
9 months. Okay.
Yeah. So he was still napping twice to 3 times a day at that point. But it was like, no, we just can't skip a nap. Like his body needs that rest. He can't be up for that long, because you mentioned one of the rhythms was
the homeostatic.
Yes, you have to. Your body needs sleep, and they need more sleep than we do as adults.
Yeah. So if you can envision, like, the longer you're awake, your sleep debt your need for sleep is building. In young children, the degree at which I'm trying to visually describe what I'm doing with my hands here. It is at a steeper. So their homeostatic drive builds up faster. And so they'll build up, and then they'll have a nap. They'll recover, not to full morning things, but then there'll be a steeper curve again, and then they'll come back down. When a child misses a nap, and it's okay, children miss naps sometimes. It happens, right? I don't want parents out there to think that their child can't miss a nap. But when it does happen, what will happen with sleep is sleep onset will be faster. So they'll be like, oh, they were super tired. They zonked in 30 seconds. Their first bout of sleep will be deeper and longer. So if it's typically 45 minutes and they missed their nap, maybe it's going to be 60 or 70 minutes. So that's like the body trying to compensate for what was missed earlier. But then their overall sleep time is not going to be that much different. Where we see the stronger effect of sleep deprivation is functionally what's happening with the lost nap is really in that first third of the night. They'll still have kind of a raucous sort of last 2/3, and that's pretty typical for all of us throughout development.
So for Kirsten, maybe you can go next. What would be one sleep tip that you've utilized or you've learned that you would give other parents that's really been successful for you and your family?
I would say like what AJ discussed earlier with like having the lights down low and calm and routine and singing or reading books, like just a very calm experience. And I mean, as long as we're at home, same time every night. Like we start the process at the same time with my daughter. We start my son's process at the same time every night. And, when we're traveling for Christmas or, obviously you're going to have interruptions, but when we're at home, we stick to those schedules and routines and just very calm atmosphere. Yeah.
What about you, Aubrey? What's kind of one big takeaway you would give parents?
I think give yourself grace.
Yes. Yes.
I think not all kids are the same, and you might have gotten information from a different parent, even this podcast.
Yeah.
And it may or may not work for you. So I think, like AJ has said, listen to your kid. They know their body best, and I think just give yourself grace.
Yeah.
For sure.
AJ, what are some last key takeaways that you want to share?
I think Aubrey led into it quite well. I think we have spent much of this podcast talking about what parents can do to optimize sleep in their little one, but there are some little ones where what is happening with their sleep is not a function of a poor routine or a function of not having a calm environment. Like children really do struggle with sleep sometimes. And if you're like, I've done the behavioral things and we're not rested, they're not rested, reach out, talk to your pediatrician, talk to a pediatric behavioral sleep medicine person. And it is okay to need help in that space.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. Any last thoughts? Herman, do you have any last questions you want to bring up?
Not really. This is the topic for another episode, but I think one of the key issues that didn't discuss, but it's important, is how we get information about how to go about putting our children to sleep. Kirsten was talking about the fact that, you hear from your parents, from your in-laws, from podcasts, from experts, and how you collate all that information into what I do tonight or what I do this week with my kids. But that's a topic for a different time. Well, thank you again, Dr. A.J. Schwichtenberg, Kirsten, and Aubrey, for such an exciting conversation. We hope you're walking away with fresh ideas and a deeper appreciation for the power of early experiences. Remember, childhood isn't just a phase, it is the foundation.
We look forward to your feedback about this episode by completing a short 2 to 3 minute evaluation. You can find the link in the podcast notes. The first 50 respondents who complete the evaluation will receive a $20 gift card. You've been listening to Unlocking Childhood, a space where real parents' experiences meet expert knowledge. We want to thank our sound engineer, Nick Bertling, and we are your hosts, Kelsey and Herman. Thank you for listening. Join us in 2 weeks for our next episode. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep unlocking what makes every child flourish.